Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Wilbur Talks FPL, where we talk everything FPL and, of course, the Premier League in general. Back for episode 20. So, we're getting pretty deep into the season now, into game week 33. We'll be looking ahead to, and we'll have a bit of a look back on game week 32 as well. We're back to the full complement this week, as Liverpool are not playing tonight. We're back with Sam and Charlie as usual. How are you both doing?
Well, good, thank you.
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Good stuff. The King has returned, as Sam has just been telling us before, but we won't spoil the look back at the previous week because Sam was happy to maybe be top of the mini league again. But so I'll say we're going to leave it for later. I think we'll just jump straight in there, Sam. So do you want to tell us how your game week 32 has treated you?
Yes, okay, sure. It was a bit of a weird one, really, wasn't it? There's a few handy scores knocking around, I would say. For example, Salah got a very disguised assist against Man City, which with the armband took him to 10. Obviously benefited very much from the Son hat-trick. I brought in Maddison, he got a return, which was great for 6. Rudiger with his clean sheet, and Trent with an assist as well. So overall, ticked over to a nice 54, back above average for the first time in a while, which is nice to see. And most importantly, back where we belong at the top of the family mini league. Matt had a disastrous week. He decided to take out Son and bring in Mahrez, so that worked out really well for me. And nice little 22-point cushion now going into the next few weeks, which is nice. I can maybe even afford to take a 4-point hit for a preferable double game week option if I was feeling so ambitious. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, good week all in all.
That's one of those killer ones, isn't it? Take out a song from Aaron's, but as I was mentioning,
that's a killer.
About then, I remember Sterling earlier in the season, so we've all been there, but it gives you that nice cushion. You can tell you've got your confidence back now, and you're just gonna.
It's got to be driven home from here. It has to be. Got no choice.
Yeah, it should back on top and there to stay. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
How was your game week, Charlie?
Pretty good, to be fair. So I finished on 68 against the average of 48, so pleased with that. My points, and I don't really like weeks that are like this, but my points did come from a very small select number of players. So, like Sam mentioned, the Son hat trick. I had a Kane captain, got me 20. Rafinha with a 10. Outside of those, it's really just the ones and twos from everyone else. So I usually prefer having weeks where I get a good selection of points from all my players. But for this week at least, it's just a few, but they managed to really kick me up there, so that was nice. But still, just in terms of overall rank, just hovering around the same positions again. So it's just going to need a few little gems to push me up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, just so casually, I'm happy with 68. I think me and Sam would have snapped our hands off with 68, but
it's all relative.
Yeah, I'm going to say your kind of rank position, it's not much change, is it, when you're kind of around that kind of points, unless you get a big swing. But yeah, linking over to mine, I'm definitely taking 68. The Bruno captaincy went fantastic, as we expected, didn't we, Charlie, from last week? But
I tried to warn you.
I'm saying, it was sound logic. Salah, obviously, got the assist, but wasn't a huge swing in that. So I only got 37 points. Rafinha and Kane carrying with 10 each, and then not really anything to write home about the rest of the team. So not great. Obviously, Son kind of demolished a lot of people's ranks this week, and I think a lot of people were favouring Kane a few weeks back, but we're definitely seeing that Son can go on those streaks, and it's kind of punished some of the non-owners, shall we say. But I'm sure over probably the rest of the season, it's going to be pretty even between Kane and Son. So I personally wouldn't be switching to Son at this point, but if you had a double up, as I know, I think you had, didn't you, Charlie? And I think, did you both have double up? Did you have Kane, Sam? I can't even remember if you got Kane.
No, I didn't have Kane. I got fodder strikers, really.
Yeah, but you had the main man at least. So
yeah, I did have Son. Yeah, I think double Spurs going forwards are really. It's getting to the point. I never thought I'd say this, given the start of the season. It's almost mandatory. Looking at the next few weeks, I would say, especially anyone taking free hits, or maybe even if you've got wildcards left. Yeah. They're running so good. They've got to be favourites now for both.
Yeah, I think you could even argue triple attack, especially now that Doherty's out. You could easily be going Kulusevski as well because of his value.
Kulusevski's amazing value.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's not as explosive as Son, but he can definitely keep ticking over, as we've seen in the last few games. So that gives us a bit of an overview of how our teams did on FPL. How about our teams in real life, should we say? And I feel like I need to let you start there, Sam, with probably the game of the weekend, probably one of the games of the season in terms of how the game was as well in general. How did you find the game? Sweating it out a bit through some of it?
That was a crazy game. I love these games where you sort of look at the clock. You know it's kicked off. You look at the clock and they've played half an hour, and it feels like they've been playing for 5 minutes. It's that intense, and that's exactly what we had with City Liverpool at the weekend. I thought Liverpool were lucky to go in one down. They could have gone in way more than that down, at which point it would have been really tough to come back. But yeah, really, really spirited to come out, get the early goal in the second half, and had a couple of chances in the second half as well. It's just an unbelievable occasion every time these two teams meet now. The standard of play just is so far ahead of the rest of the league. It's quite incredible. And yeah, whichever one of them goes on to win it will have deserved to win it. I think we said that before. It's probably a better point for City than it is for Liverpool because ultimately now it's back in City's hands. But yeah, I mean, if you'd have said a few weeks ago, you go into a position where would you take a draw at the Etihad, we'd probably have said yes. And even before kick-off, we'd have probably taken a draw, just don't lose. But yeah, it's going to be really tough now, and you're going to need like some kind of night like City had against Palace in order to see them slip up again. I don't really think there were too many outstanding Liverpool performances, to be honest. Van Dijk was pretty good, although even he had his moments. But Kevin De Bruyne was the star of the show, in my opinion. He absolutely ran the game. Cancelo was brilliant, but De Bruyne was just the best player on the pitch, and it was a joy to watch the whole game, but particularly his performance. So yeah, take the point. We're going to have to hope that City slip up, but it wouldn't surprise me if both teams won every single game on the run in now, and that will be as you were at the minute. So a great advert for the Premier League. Probably a good result for both teams. I think Liverpool will take it slightly more in hindsight, because I think Man City were probably the better team over 90 minutes. But yeah, definitely take it for now. And on to the next one.
It's set up again, isn't it? Like, was it a few seasons ago where you was kind of in a very similar position, and then you both literally won every single game the rest of the season? I think it was a similar type of time of the season. I think you might have had like one more game than you have this time.
Literally.
Yeah. So it's literally just relying on them getting through it. I think it could depend on them getting distracted by other competitions as well. Well, obviously from both sides. You have a lot to manage, and you've got a big game at the weekend as well in the cup between. Well, it should be another classic, shouldn't it? Really.
It should. Yeah, it should.
So I feel like the three main competitions left, it's literally those two teams are favourites for all of those competitions now. So it could be literally like a free competition shootout between the two of you. But makes it exciting. Obviously, it's good for English football. We just need some of the other teams to keep up to make it a bit more of a two-horse race. But like you said, the levels above other teams in the league at the minute, it's quite clearly a top two rather than a top three. I don't think Chelsea are even anywhere close to them at this point in time. I think at this point we're just, I wouldn't talk about United. I'm just going to literally glaze over it. I'm not going to have a rant every weekend about United. But unfortunately, we'll have to go to you, Charlie, next.
Do we have to?
A bit of a swing for you in, obviously, you would have been in a more confident place, maybe like 2 weeks ago. Not been a great swing for you in the top four race. How do you see it now, like, obviously, from your Brighton result of the weekend and Spurs getting a healthy win on the board?
Yeah, it's tough now. It really has just in like you say, a matter of a week or two, really swung. They've got the points on the board. Technically, would be level if we won our game in hand, but they're still well ahead on goal difference as well. Anyway, so they've certainly got the upper hand at this stage, and I think it's really just about holding on until the game against Tottenham, and then just that being our last sort of chance saloon to overtake them. But yeah, at this point, I think they've got to be the favourites out of the two. Disappointing game really. I did say last week that our loss against Palace, that's not going to be the last you hear of Arsenal or Spurs slipping up, and it's just a bit unfortunate that Arsenal were the next ones to slip up again. and yeah, kind of creeping into some of our old ways of just being very sort of frustrating, showing no real clinical or a sort of attacking threat, which we do have a tendency to do sometimes, where just aimless passes around the back and things like that. That just it frustrates the life out of me, really, watching when they do that. When you've got these real flair players like Saka, Odegaard, so on that have done so well recently, just really gone off the boil. But I guess that's what you get with a team full of youngsters, really. You probably don't have quite that same nous and experience necessarily that maybe a slightly older team would. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one. All we can do is just try, like I say, try and hang on at least to keep it close until that game against Spurs, and hopefully use that if we can get ourselves up for that game and beat them. Then that, I think that's our only real shot. But other than that, yeah, I think it probably is Spurs' place to lose now.
It'll be a huge game, isn't that? North London derby. You've got to keep in touch then and hopefully do them over. But it's not helping you with the injuries you've got, is it? That's probably the big one as well. That's not helping. Two important players you're missing currently.
Yeah, exactly, and the lack of replacement, really. So Tierney, the only recognised left back replacement is Tavares, who Arteta seems to not trust at all and doesn't even want to play him. So he played Xhaka at left back instead, which, in my opinion, is even worse, to try and force him into that position. And yeah, not really a like for like replacement for Partey either. Certainly not what he can do. Got Lokonga, who kind of took that position, but yeah, again, he's just nowhere near the level of Partey. So yeah, paying the price really for a lack of investment in the squad in January. You saw, and it's easy to look back on it. It was always going to be a decisive point, dependent on where we finish. But at the January transfer window, Spurs obviously strengthened well. They got, like we said earlier, relating to FPL, they strengthened with Kulusevski. They brought in Bentancur as well. And yeah, we've dropped out of it with just getting rid of players and not really backing the squad or getting anyone else in. So paying the price for that at the moment. And yeah, it looks like it may well end up being our downfall.
Yeah, just been exactly the same time as Spurs. It's gone on a great run, haven't they, and got into the form. So unfortunately, they both fell side by side, and probably edges Spurs as favourites now, like you said. But it's still got a chance in there. Just got to hang in there and try and get the results. It should still be interesting the last few weeks. As I mentioned earlier, we're filming during Champions League, and I've seen that Chelsea are 1-0 up at the Bernabeu to make that tie interesting. So we'll see. Chelsea, well, I was thinking it might make our FPL decisions easier if Chelsea got knocked out, but they're still hanging in there, so we will see. Looking at the other results over the weekend, Sam, is there anything that really popped out to you? Obviously, there's a big Chelsea scoreline in there, but was there any impressive performances or anything you wanted to mention from those results that we saw?
Well, it's quite incredible, really, how Burnley got themselves into contention to getting away from that scrap, and then went and lost to Norwich. Yeah. It's just it's a crazy summary of what's going on down the bottom of the league, really. I think that's probably just worth a shout. The rest of it, it is what it is, really. Man United were a joke against Everton. Good solid win for Newcastle against Wolves. I really genuinely believe Newcastle are going to be one to watch next season under Eddie Howe, when they've obviously got a bit of money to spend. Yeah. The job he's done there is incredible, really, given the resources he's had. So, yeah, I think that's a really good one to watch for next season. But other than that, nothing too surprising as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, good, like you say, good result for Chelsea, but it'll be a better result if they can somehow turn this around in Madrid. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We was mentioning, I know we spoke between the last pod you was on, that it was looking like Everton were in a big trouble, and obviously they pulled out that United.
I genuinely thought Everton were down. I've joked about it a few times on the podcast over the course of the season, but that Burnley result and just the sheer choke in that game, I thought there's no way they're ever coming back from this. They're down. I just thought Burnley would go out, roll over Norwich after getting that gritty win. But how wrong was I? I watched Norwich with good value for the win as well. At the weekend, I saw Cornet, Mr. Sitter at the back stick. But But yeah, I thought Everton were in big trouble, but what a swing. No one, I would never have thought Everton could have beaten United, and I wouldn't have thought Norwich could have beaten Burnley, but amazing how it can all turn around on one game. And now all of a sudden, Burnley find themselves 4 points adrift on the same number of games as Everton. I know Everton have still got a tough run, and it's not completely beyond Burnley to get out, but it's going to take one hell of a recovery from here to get back into contention.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those like Premier League swings you can't always foresee coming, can you? And that's kind of why I like the Premier League, and just throws up some results like that. Yeah, so I think touching on the relegation, would you say, Charlie, that it's now just like a straight shootout between Everton and Burnley? Are you writing off Watford, Norwich? Do you think anyone else can be pulled into it? I think probably that Leeds result for them as well kind of should give them that comfort, although they have played a few games more.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think that change in managers really seemed to work for Leeds. I think they've got enough in them to stay up. They do have a tough couple of games in a few weeks with Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea, but I think they've got enough to keep themselves clear of that drop. And I think both Burnley and Everton have been so poor that Leeds should feel fine at not getting dragged into that. Yeah, just funny that those Burnley and Everton results happened as they did at the same time. Really, I think that really does put Burnley in a very bad position there. But I guess, like we said, the fixtures coming up, it is much better for Burnley than it is for Everton. But when you're a team that's right down there in that position, you're there for a reason, and it's because you've not picked up points against these kind of teams. So who's to say whether that is actually any benefit anyway, even if they are playing teams that they might have more of a chance against. And like we've seen, Everton managed to pull out a win, despite it not being a consistent or particularly positive Man United side. It's still Everton against Man United, and Man United should be winning that. So yeah, interesting. And also the other thing I was just thinking about as well was that the number more wins that Everton have got over Burnley. Obviously, they're only 4 points ahead, but they've had 8 wins compared to Burnley's 4, and it's just that Burnley have drawn a lot more games that's kept them close. So I think that maybe says something a little bit about the squads as well, that Everton, whilst they might end up losing more games, they'll also have that energy and maybe more of a drive to go on and win a game, whereas you think of a typical Burnley side, Sean Dyche, and just kind of trying to be compact and solid, maybe just don't have quite that same drive to go on and push for a winner, maybe in a tough game. So maybe that will be enough as well. Yeah, I think that 4 points is going to be quite tough for Burnley to get back over the course of the season. So yeah, I think at this point it probably will be Burnley that go down now.
Yeah. I feel like with Everton as well, like they can, well, as we've seen, I know I mentioned about Arsenal earlier in the season, and then United obviously this weekend, like especially when they're at home, they can pull some points out of the fire a bit, even if they're not favourites to win. I think away is probably completely different, but I think you'd fancy them, and like their attacking talents like Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin's more likely to score than, for example, Vegas, as we've seen the last few weeks. So I think, kind of like you said, Charlie, like they've got those players who can win games, and Burnley, you feel like they can grind out a 1-0 at home, but can they, like, if you see Burnley like concede 2 goals, you're literally like they're not going to get anything from that game. You don't expect, well, like say that, and then conceded 2 against Everton, but that was like relegation scrap, wasn't anything can happen in that. But in majority of games, you wouldn't expect Burnley to score many goals, so they're very much relying on the 1-0 to the Arsenal, as we would say. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you both. Unless we see a big swing, you never know. We could see a swing again this week as it's been going, but I'd be tempted to agree with you. You never know. Norwich could go to Old Trafford and win and put themselves back in the fight. It's bad when you get to a point with United that you're concerned that them playing against Norwich that might not thrash them as you'd expect. So I'm sure we'll get to that one on the free hit. I think that touches on the last game week, and I am going to try and focus a bit more time onto the second half. So we're going to jump into a bit of a quiz now, even though it'll probably not be kind of halfway through. And as it's a Champions League night, get both of your brains going. We're going to be talking about Champions League appearances. So there are 45 players that have had 100 appearances or more in the Champions League. So you're going to take it in turns. If you get one wrong, you're out. So there's 45 with 100 or more appearances. This is up to date as of last Tuesday. There is a player last Tuesday that got to the 100 mark. If that gives you a clue to one of the lower people down, you might be able to do it out of process of elimination. But do you both understand that? So 100 appearances or more in the Champions League, and it's a list of 45.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Since you're back this time, Sam, I'm going to make you go first. So over to you. So if either of you get it wrong, you're out. If you, I will allow you one chance. If you re-say an answer by accident, I will allow you one life, basically, with that. But that's just for duplication. Over to you.
Right, let's start with Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's correct. Top of the tree.
Let's go with the better player, Lionel Messi.
Third on the list because he's an inferior player. There he is.
Benzema.
Benzema is on the list. I would say what position these are all in, but there's 45. We'll be here all night if I tell you what position they're all in.
Let's go with Busquets.
He is on the list.
Sergio Ramos.
Correct.
Let's get some Arsenal representation. Omri.
Not sure about that. You've got to get someone else some representation in there. That is correct.
Try and use up the slightly easier ones first, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the logic. Yeah.
Lampard.
That is correct. It was further down the list than I thought there. I was like looking for him, like, is he actually on here?
Iniesta.
Yep. In the top 10.
Well, on that basis, let's go for his amigo, Xavi.
Number 4. Very high up there.
Let's go for someone that's always annoyed me because we've never managed to score past him, Manuel Neuer.
I've seen him somewhere. He's on this list. There he is. Just under Ramos. You'll see a theme. Obviously, this is giving you a bit of a clue now. You both had the same amount of turns. You'll see that successful teams, obviously in Champions League era, will have a theme there. Because I'm not expecting you to get all 45, so I thought I'll give you that hint now.
Well, let's go for Zlatan.
That is
Ibrahimovic.
That is correct.
Buffon.
Buffon. That is correct. 2 places above Ibra.
Still got a few, but some of them more questionable than others. Let's go for Petr Cech.
That is correct. That's one of those ones I want 100% on, and then obviously I was doing the list, and I was like, yeah, of course he has.
My position now. Just try and run for as many goalkeepers as possible.
So Charlie will probably try to intercept you, and then you said.
I've covered the main ones that I can think of in goalkeepers. Let's go. I don't think we've said him because I've not crossed him off my list yet. Thomas Müller.
I've seen him somewhere. It's very similar where I'm like, I've got this long list of names, and like when I'm crossing them off, I'm like, where's he gone? He's definitely on the list, and I'm struggling to find him on my list. I remember writing him down before. Muller. There he is. Because he was so far up, I've got so many crosses, it looked like I've crossed him out. Yeah, that is correct. He's actually in the top 10 as well.
Well, I have 2 more goalkeepers. So one of them I know to be very, very highly capped. Let's go for Iker Casillas.
That is correct. He is second between Ronaldo and Messi.
I didn't think it was that high, but that's
that was the big one.
A lot of appearances,
Let's go with the recently released Prime Moments, Philip Lahm.
Yep, just under Henry in the list.
Moments Lahm. Huh. Okay, I'm going to save the other goalkeeper for now. My suspicions are Charlie might be struggling with the goalkeepers, and that's a bit of a banger.
Out of interest, you talking about goalkeepers, I've just thought of one that might be on this list.
All right. I've got an absolute banger. Let's hope it's not that one. Right. Moving into defence then. This is. Let's go for that one first. Danny Alves.
That is correct. Right next to Lam on the list as a fellow fullback. Well, generally, I know Lam moved a bit.
Let's keep it in defenders then, and I will go with John Terry.
That is correct.
He must have 100. Must do. It's a bit of a loose one. Let's go for Xabi Alonso.
Correct. You're already in midfield, Sam.
Well, I need to keep that goalkeeper because that's like my trump, and then I need that defender's a bit on the fence. There's probably loads more defenders, but I can't think of any more. So we're into midfield.
I've got a few defenders still, but I'm going to go up front. I'm going to say I'm pretty sure he's got enough now. Lewandowski.
Yeah, that is correct.
Very nice.
I think he only had about 105-ish. I think if I remember correctly. Yeah, I did remember correctly. That's a bit sad.
Feel like of the three, the only one that didn't get to 100 was Gerrard, so I'm going to go Skulls.
That's correct. He's in the top 20.
Well, going back to our theme of good teams, I'm going to say Roberto Carlos.
That is correct.
It's a good one.
Top 20 again.
That is a good one. There. I did not have that. That is a good one.
Yeah, there's some like left field ones like that in there, to be fair.
Well, let's go for. It's going to be close. He's going to be around 100. I just don't know whether he would have got enough in for the clubs he played for after
Risky business.
Yeah. Although we are teetering on a bit of the edge here, I'm gonna struggle to get a lot of these, I think. But I'm gonna go for Bex.
That's correct. More than Lampard. You currently haven't got.
Is it more than Lampard?
Yep.
Wow.
You currently haven't got number 5 and number 6 on the list. Just as point of reference.
Well, I don't think this guy's going to be 5th or 6th, but based on clubs played for, I am going to say Cesc Fabregas.
Yep, 105 with Lewandowski as well.
Very good. Man, what a player he was.
I'm just saying, the 5th and 6th, if neither of you get them, I think you'll kick yourself pretty badly.
Well, I think I got one of them. I'd be surprised if this guy is at 5th or 6th.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I want to use it just yet. Okay. Let's go for Iron Robin.
That is correct. Good one.
I'm going to go for this one, which I think is going to be one of those top ones, purely based on appearances, is the hairy chest man himself, Ryan Giggs.
That is correct. Number 6.
That's good. I can't believe I forgot Giggs.
He's
I've written down Man United players.
He's got the most appearances, hasn't he, for someone? I can't remember. Someone like that.
Someone.
Overall, I don't know. Something like that.
He's got them. I'm pretty sure he got the most Man United appearances, if that's what you mean.
Well, I've got another Man United player that was my sort of on the fence defender that I'm going to use now. Gary Neville.
Correct. More than John Terry.
Yes.
More than John Terry. I guess they are that United team.
Yeah.
Getting into some interesting territory here.
Yeah, after you've done a few more, I'll give you a bit of a breakdown of what's left over.
Okay. I am begrudgingly going to give this name based on, again, clubs played for Ashley Cole.
Correct.
Man, how did I not get Cole? All right. Well, I've only got 4, and 2 of those are debatable. So I think I'm going to go for one of the slam dunkers now, just to keep in the game. Let's go for the Real Madrid legend, Raul.
Of course.
Yeah, he's number 5.
Ugh,
Right up there.
so obvious. How didn't I think of him?
He was record goal scorer for quite a while, wasn't he? Until Messi and Ronaldo caught him up. And I think Benzema might have overtaken him now.
I think he might have even played in the Champions League for Schalke as well.
I think he did. I think I remember playing a few games, yeah.
Not a lot of games, but probably some.
That's frustrating. I should have had that. Well, let's keep within the team, and I'm going to, well, not of that era. I'm going to go for Tony Cruz.
That's correct.
Very good.
Very high up on the list, just inside the top 20.
Again, teams played.
Yeah, you need to think of, like I said, key is successful teams.
Exactly that. And on that basis, I'm going to use my trump goalkeeper now, I think.
Oh.
I need to stay in the game. I know this is right because I remember the game when he got his 100th appearance.
This will be awkward when he
And made
finished
a
on
big thing
99
against
or
Trophy.
something.
No, I know this is right. I know this one's right. So let's go for Victor Valdez.
That is correct, yeah.
Ooh, interesting. That's not actually the goalkeeper that I have in mind, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to come back to it. This is a bit of a stab. It's an educated guess because I don't feel like this guy got the appearances with his latest or like most recent team. It was with the team before. I'm going to say Pirlo on the basis of that Milan team.
That's correct.
You weasel. That was one of the 2 I had.
So you're down to the last 13.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not getting 7. It's going to take some kind of miracle from the gods to get 7. All right, sticking with Milan, I'm going to go for Maldini.
That's correct.
Well, since it's nice, we can think about that era now and think of that same team. I'm going to go with Seedorf.
Yeah, the highest man on the list that he was missing.
Because he played for Real Madrid as well, didn't he? Before that.
I think roughly 12 years on the list, so very high up. I'm just going through all these positions now. I'm trying to give you a bit of a heads up where you are here. So I'm just doing it by position. I think, I've done it right here. So you've got 11 players left. You've got 1 goalkeeper, 1 striker, 6 defenders, and 3 midfielders.
6 defenders. Oh my lord. Okay.
It's That gives me some confidence that my goalkeeper shout might be right, or I could just be thinking of the wrong one.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's how I'm splitting them. You could make some subjectiveness between if it's an attacker, like an attacker in the middle. Or a
Have we?
striker.
I might have to risk duplication here because I don't
Okay.
know if we've said this, but playing in front of Valdez, Oyol.
We have not said him, so that is correct.
Yes, dunk.
Down to 10.
Right then.
Getting interesting.
I don't think we've said the madman himself, Pepe.
Now, I knew when he said madmen that it was Pepe.
Hey.
Pepe is correct, yes.
Oh my word! I would never have got that.
All of those Real Madrid appearances must have been right up there. And then he's played obviously recently for Porto as well. They beat
Yeah, no,
Juve
fair
in the
enough.
Champions League.
Yeah, let me have a look. I've got a breakdown of
Fair
where
enough.
all the clubs it was as well. Where's Pepe? Pepe was quite high up, to be fair. I'm trying to find him, and he's like pretty high up. Yeah, he's played 109, 71 for Real Madrid, 32 for Porto, and 6 for Besiktas.
Besiktas. That move completely passed me by.
In between, yeah.
Hmm.
So
So we're down to 9 possible players.
trying to think of defenders. How can
Yeah, we've got 4 remaining defenders.
that?
I'm not going to go further than
I
that.
don't think I'm going to get any of the defenders. I don't think I'm going to get any of the midfielders or attackers either. But I can't even think who that goalkeeper might be either. I can't think that Milan had a particularly consistent goalkeeper for a long period of time. I think we said Buffon. Don't think De Gea or Schmeichel played for long enough. They probably overlapped in that 100 period. Trying to just think, like you said, it's a good point. Think of the big clubs, and you're a bit closer to trying to work something out.
Yeah, successful teams was the key one. I'm tempted to give another clue here, but I feel like Charlie's got a few more, so I'm going
Well,
to
at the end of the
give you
year,
one more.
mate, I'm probably getting one more at best, and that's going to be a pluck.
Yeah, I'm going to give you both one more go, and then I'll give another clue. Okay, well, you get a lot of the players you've got left. Like, you've got the bottom 7 left. You've got 9, and you've got the bottom 7 of this list. So, yeah, the tougher ones.
I'm going to try play for some big clubs, so he might be there, but I don't think he was at any of them for long enough. But I can only think because he's played at a few big clubs, there's a chance he might be there. Let's go for Figo.
Oh, that was going to be my next one.
That is correct.
Oh, mate. Boom.
Oh.
Boom. Yes.
Right.
I only got back by singing the Jota song in my head.
Different way of getting them.
Right, I can either here have a stab at one of the defenders or pull out this goalkeeper pick. I think it's time to use that goalkeeper because I feel like that's the best educated guess I've got next. I'm pretty sure that Manuel Neuer's predecessor, Oliver Kahn, will have had enough to get him in there.
Oh, if that's right, that's a great shout.
Do you think it's right, Sam?
Well, that's close. It's got to be close. That's a really
right,
good
he's
shout.
got to be up there, close to the 100 at least.
Oh, actually, I think that's right. That has to be right.
That is the missing goalkeeper, yes.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So,
That's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
103, all for Bayern Munich.
Hey,
Right, so you've got 7 players left.
7. God.
5.
Can we have?
I'm just
Okay, go back
clarifying
to-
this. 5 of these are still currently playing football, and
Five are still playing.
and 2 of them have retired, to the best of my knowledge.
Can we
Yeah.
have, if this is okay, can we have the breakdown of the players again? The positions.
Yeah, the 7 you've got left. Just let me cross off. Yeah, so Figo's gone from there. So you've got 4 defenders, 2 midfielders, and 1 striker. 5 of them are playing, 2 of them are retired. When I say retired, I'm pretty sure this one is retired. I don't know of him still playing. Surely he's got to be ancient.
I feel like a striker would be more obvious.
Yeah, I was going to say something then, but that might give it away a bit. There's no way that guy's still playing. Like, if they're like 55 in like some random league, I'm not counting that.
Honestly, I'm in the mud. I mean, I don't think this is right. Shot. It just can't be right.
Probably just shooting your odds now, maybe like be going for a midfielder if you've got more options to get right.
No,
No, not a
just
midfielder.
throwing
Sorry.
that curveball. I was going to stab at a left back, but
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I said midfielder.
I was going to
but
stab
gonna
at
say,
left
yeah,
back.
there's
Yeah.
4 defenders. I've just thrown you off even completely there.
Yeah. I'm going to just take a shot, I think. I don't think it's right. Jordi Alba.
Probably close.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is incorrect.
Yeah.
You want to
I was clutching at air. I had no more names. So.
any other suggestions, Charlie, before I fill in the gaps?
My kind of guess at a defender was going to be Alaba because of playing for Bayern and Real Madrid.
He is the player who last Tuesday got to 100.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I was like, when Sam was saying it, I was like, is he going to say Alaba or is he going to say Alba? Yeah, so,
but yeah, outside of that, yeah, I didn't really it was all going to just be guesswork from there.
Yeah, so you're missing 2 left backs.
Oh, come off it. Oh my God, I reckon I know one of them. I bet it's Marcelo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is horrible.
Who's the other?
He's retired. He likes to do good videos on Twitter about saying how he loves football.
Patrice Evra.
Yeah, Patrice Evra.
Should have stuck on that Man U theme.
Yeah, you've got
Milk that one dry.
You've got a Marcelo teammate who currently still play. I expect he's currently playing now. A midfielder.
What position? Oh, Modric.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
You have got someone who's in the top 20, centre back, Barcelona, still playing.
Oh, PK.
Yep.
Oh.
And then you're left with the last 2, which fair play if you got either of these 2. He has just announced that he's leaving Man City at the end of the season.
Fernandinho.
Because he got
I couldn't think any. The only Man City player I thought might have been close was David Silva, but I just thought he was injured too much. So.
Yeah, and the thing with Fernandinho is he got 28 of them with Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah.
And then you've got another one sneaking on the end because you've played for 3 clubs. Shevchenko got on there with 100 appearances, 59 for Milan, only 15 for Chelsea, but then 26 for Dynamo Kiev. So yeah, fair play if you got those bottom 2. I feel like the other ones in between were kind of guessable. But yeah, the win goes to Charlie there.
Yeah, fair play.
In fairness, it was a list that finally could defeat you, so at least I could separate you, which makes a change.
That was hard.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, especially in fair play, you got to like the last 7, and was it last 7? Yeah, the last 7 and the bottom, we're missing the bottom 5, so like fair play to the ones you did get. So you were left with the mainly tricky ones. I think mainly PK, I think was the main one that was missing there. That was quite high up, but yeah, fair play there. But yeah, good stuff. GG's all round. Right, so we will move on to the second part of the pod, where we're going to look ahead mainly to this game week that we've got coming up, because I feel like it's a bit of a strategy kind of minefield here. There'll be a lot of discussion on chips if people are going to play a free hit, which will be the main one I would expect people to be using this week. I am personally going to be free hitting this week. If I remember correctly, I think Charlie, you've got a free hit left, and Sam, I think you've got bench boost. Is that correct for both of you?
Yeah, got bench boost.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, just talking about this to start with. So Charlie, you've got free hit. I think you're not planning to use it in this current game week, are you? I think you're saving it for 36.
No, exactly. I think in this conversation to come, we'll make it apparent why I don't want to use it this week.
Yeah, and I think bench boost, I assume you're probably going to be using a similar game week in 36, I'd expect.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm definitely not using it this week.
Yeah, I think there's certain situations, obviously, depending on how your team is and how many chips you've got left, where you could actually bench boost this week. But obviously, it's highly team dependent, and you kind of...
I've got two no plays, so that's not an option for me.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. I wasn't suggesting you to throw it out there, but I think, especially if some people have got a lot of chips to use, if we've got like a wild card of free hit still to use, it's not the worst idea to use that bench boost this week, even if you've got some single game week players. We'll get into it, that there's some single game week fixtures that are quite nice, which doesn't mean you need to be doubling up on every fixture or every player, should we say. So if we jump into it, I think the key bit that is kind of being discussed is the value of having, if you're free hitting, for example, or just in a normal situation like you two are, the value of having a player with 2 fixtures over a player that's got 1 fixture. So if we're looking at the game week, for example, I know a lot of people, based on their form, if we use a prime example of Spurs, have only got 1 fixture against Brighton at home, which is a pretty strong fixture, and you can't lie there. So if I gave you that question to you, Charlie, to start with, so for example, if you was looking at like a Kane compared to Ronaldo or a Bruno Fernandes compared to a Son, how much value do you take in that extra fixture in this game week if you were choosing between those kind of players, either on a free hit or in general terms?
It's completely fixture dependent. So taking those examples you listed there between, for example, the Man United fixtures being Norwich and Liverpool compared to a Tottenham player's fixture, just Brighton, I see that Man United's run as just being Norwich plus 2 points. So it's really about whether Kane can get 2 more points against Brighton than, for example, Ronaldo does against Norwich for me. I don't see Man United getting anything from that Liverpool game. And that's kind of, my overarching theme of this week, really, is that I think none of the doubles are that exciting. None of the, especially, I think defensively, none of them look... I don't look at any of those teams that are doubling and think that they can get clean sheets in both. I think there's a chance, but I don't think it's likely to get a clean sheet in both. Which is why, for example, when we come to talk about the exact players we would go for in a free hit, I would just stick with the kind of bog standard defence that we've kind of moved to all season, really, because I feel like they're your best shot at getting a clean sheet and some attacking returns, rather than trying to move to these teams like the Brightons and the Burnleys and the Leicesters that have 2 games, but I don't actually see them getting a clean sheet in both games anyway. So, yeah, I think obviously, generally speaking, it gets you the extra 2 points having the extra game, but you've really got to actually think, is that game actually going to be useful? Think about it. If that was just a single game week with that second fixture, would you bring in a player for that game? Because, I don't see there being as much value in that, really. So, for example, in my free hit draft, I've gone with Kane over Ronaldo, because I just think Kane is in much better form than Ronaldo, and is much more likely to get something in his Brighton game compared to Ronaldo in the Norwich game.
Yeah, it's very dependent on those fixtures, like you said, still, isn't it? Maybe, obviously, quantity of fixtures is never a bad thing, but it depends on who it is against. If I was using the same logic to you, Sam, so if I gave you a similar example, so if I was saying on a free hit, would you choose like Cancelo with one fixture or like a Matt Target with two fixtures for Newcastle? Would you be using the same kind of similar thinking that you might not get that benefit from the extra fixture?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think in that exact example, I don't think Target's too bad an option. But there's certainly a lot of merit. I basically can't put what Charlie said any better. I completely agree with what he said. Um, there's still these like meta options, if you like, that have got single game weeks are probably gonna score you more points than some of these punts on double game weeks. So the more I looked at it after I thought I was putting a wild card together rather than a free hit, but the more I looked at it, I think it might not even be the best week two free hit of the fixtures that are available, just because the fixtures that the top teams have are just generally still pretty good. Like maybe the exception of Man United, but Man United are going to have to batter Norwich. I don't think Man United could batter anyone at the minute. Um, so because I'm convinced Liverpool will beat Man United at Anfield. So yeah, I don't think other than that, there's not a lot of double game week teams really that really excite me in terms of picks. I think Newcastle, that target option, might not be bad, but yeah, I think I'd probably still go for Cancelo at home against Brighton if I knew he was going to play.
Yeah, I think it's very much team dependent. Like, so for example, like Charlie's got his free hit and he'd prefer to use it in 36. Then, like in my scenario, I'm going to bench boost in 36. So I'm like, where should I use the free hit to maximize that and still with a wild card as well to use?
Yeah,
So I think there's a lot of
yeah,
indecision. I think some people, the lucky people, they've got two free hits. I feel like you've got to the point where you probably have to use it in 33 because you can't
yeah,
play two free hits in consecutive weeks. So I think your best place for free hits, if you don't do 33, is probably 36 and 37. And obviously you can't
yeah,
do both unless you just want fancying a 38, just like going for some differentials, which always seems to be fun, especially because everyone's playing at the same time. It's a bit carnage. But yeah, it's very much team dependent. And another thing, well, obviously the chips kind of work for me, but looking at my current team, I've got a lot of Wolves, Villa, and Leeds players. So to even get a full 11 out, I'd have to take a -4. So I'm like, not even a good starting point there. I really need to get this free hit out of the way and may as well go for some punts on the free hit, because the good thing of the free hit is I don't have to see them again if they let me down. Unfortunately, I got Bruno in last week, and that let me down, so I have to deal with him for a bit. But yeah, I think it's. I've kind of mentioned this in the chat earlier. I was like, I feel like when you're on a free hit, like it's kind of your freedom, like to take some punts, like going for those double game week, because you might not have full confidence in them all, but the fact that some of them, even like a Newcastle player, like maybe if you're in your guy's situation, you might not want to take that punt because you don't want him long term. But on a free hit, you might as well just bang him in there and hope it comes off like a target, for
yeah,
example. That's a key one that I think could work quite well. So I think that leads us quite well into kind of a discussion. If we kind of like, we're going to talk through if he was on a free hit, kind of who we'd be targeting in each position, and I think that will kind of help us discuss the different teams who are doubling as well when we go through that, because we have 7 teams in total that double, and we'll talk about them as we go through. So I think I'll use my base that we've talked about in the Discord, and then we can talk about different players around that. So if I was going for a free hit goalkeeper personally, I think the one that was standing out for me was Schmeichel for Leicester. The main reasoning behind that, because he's always, well, I'd expect him to start every game, as you'd have pretty good confidence with most goalkeepers, to be fair. And with Leicester, I think it's the indecision about their outfield options with the European commitments, and I feel like a lot of those Leicester players aren't going to play both of the games, and I feel like Schmeichel is probably one of those ones that will play. And I think outside of that, you've probably got a few options, but I think Schmeichel's probably the best. You could say maybe a De Gea, or who was the other one I was thinking? Pope, I think, because he's got a double for Burnley and he's decent for save points. But I think that Schmeichel like going for him is probably the best I'd say on a free hit. Would you agree, Charlie, with that kind of goalkeeper choice?
Yeah, I think so. That's who I kind of did in a draft free hit. I went for Schmeichel. I think Dubravka's a shout because he's only 4.4, and the fixtures are okay. Like I said, I don't think any of these double game weekers are going to get clean sheets in both. But for a keeper, it's maybe there is that little added bonus of getting the save points potentially. Yeah, I think for me it would be between Dubravka, Schmeichel, and Ramsdale. But I would go for Schmeichel if it was my choice.
Yeah, so yeah, Leicester have got Newcastle and Everton, which isn't the worst that we've ever seen. Obviously, Newcastle doing quite well at home, so I'm not sure about that. But then I think I'd fancy Leicester to get a clean sheet against Everton. So it's kind of what you were saying. I think mentioned it before, Charlie. Like you could see some of these players getting one clean sheet, but then they're going to get that double clean sheet, and that's kind of what you're searching for in these kind of assets, isn't it? To kind of pay off on the free hit. But kind of we link that to defence while we're talking about goalkeeper because they're kind of similar kind of logic. We need the clean sheets from them. So you mentioned Dubravka there. The main reason I'll be going for Schmeichel in goal is probably because I'm very tempted, as you've probably seen from my free hit, to go for double Newcastle defence. The reasons kind of behind that for me are I quite like the two fixtures they've got. Obviously, Leicester and Crystal Palace are kind of those teams that are kind of middle ground. You could argue they've got nothing to play for in the Premier League, and the key bit to my reasoning behind that is that Leicester have got European commitments. So Newcastle play Leicester at the weekend after, I think the game's on Sunday, and Leicester have got Europe on the Thursday. Newcastle have got obviously a full week before that, and then Crystal Palace play Chelsea in the FA Cup this weekend. So they will have a game before the other fixture as well. So in my opinion, Leicester and Crystal Palace will prioritise those fixtures. So I'm not even convinced that if they need to rest players, I think they'll do it rather in the league rather than the cup competition. So that was kind of that big draw for me with Newcastle. In terms of defence, Sam, would you agree with that logic in Newcastle? Is there any other kind of double game weekers you'd fancy in defence, or would you be sticking with a few single game weekers like a Cancelo or Trent, for example?
I don't think there's anyone else in defence that really stands out for me as a great option. I think Charlie had a smart pick earlier that he should probably go over, but yeah, other than that, I don't think I personally would be looking at the single game weekers as the top tier defenders that are getting you points. I don't think there's too much value to be had elsewhere.
Yeah, I was currently lining up with the two Newcastle because, like I said, I'm trying to go full on double game week where I can because I'm on a free hit. Obviously, it might backfire massively. But I'm currently on double Newcastle, and then I've currently got Tellez in there because Shaw is injured. So Tellez is quite likely, for my opinion, because I don't see anyone else playing left back, and he's got a good cross and set piece on him that he could, especially obviously that Norwich fixture, get some returns. But currently I've got triple Man United, so I'm not sure I'll completely stick with that one. As I've seen, it doesn't always work.
I'm just going to pose a thought to you here. What if Norwich score? I don't think anyone thinks that's too much of a stretch of the imagination to see Norwich scoring against United. And Liverpool score, let's say 4, or even 5, or maybe even 6. Which again, I don't think is too much of a stretch of the imagination. And I think it's very easy to see a situation in which Tellez blanks and then starts getting minus points because of Liverpool banging in goals. And that's one of the things that I find difficult with, especially like United, who have the good first fixture. You're kind of putting everything into that one game. If it doesn't pay off, particularly for these defensive players and the keepers who lose points for conceding goals, that would be a worry of mine, I think.
No slight worry with like a Cancelo that he'll be rested because they have the cup game against Liverpool before it.
I don't think. Sorry, just to intervene. I think the league is so close. I don't think you can really afford to think about resting players in these games. And Liverpool have no choice but to go full strength because the strength of opposition is a bit higher. But if City rest players and end up slipping up and drawing 1-1 at, I don't know, a slightly bogey team that they've got left, it's just not going to happen. I can't see City resting players. They're going to full send every game to the end of the season because of how close this league is.
Yeah, I was just having a quick look at the fixtures and I was thinking, because they've got all the cup ties around it, they've got, in the league, they've got Brighton at home and Watford at home. And if you've got other like Champions League and FA Cup commitments around that, if the Cancelo, for example, was going to get a rest, it could be either of those two games. Obviously, that is just being hypothetical, could happen. But like you said, they've kind of got a full send every competition, and players like that seem to have the fitness to get through, especially Cancelo this season. I think more last season he got rotated a bit more, but this season he seems to be kind of that linchpin and hasn't been rotated a lot. So you never know. There's always the odd bench in every game week that you can't foresee. So we will see with that one. Was there? I think the player that Sam was hinting towards that Charlie was going to mention was Fofana.
Yeah, that's purely a value pick, really, because he's only 4.3. I think Leicester are much more subject to rotation because they only really do have Europe to play for. So it's not quite like the Man City situation. But he is their best centre-back, and he did have the rest just now in the week just gone, which I think was just because obviously he's just come back from a very long time out. So it would be difficult for him to sort of play week in, week out. But maybe that is enough. Maybe he is now getting back to his fitness. So yeah, really it was kind of a value pick. But I think overall, when I'm drafting a team for this week, I would be putting the big players that just have the single game weeks, like Cancelo and Trent, because I genuinely think those players have a better chance of hitting double digit returns more than the double game weekers.
Now having a score update. Chelsea 2-0 in the Bernabeu. Rudiger. Oof. So levelling it up. Scenes going on over there. But if we stick with what we should be talking about, so if we move into midfield and we stick with Leicester, back to you, Sam. We've talked about the rotation. If you was on a free hit, would you be going for a Leicester midfielder? Because the fixtures, Newcastle, Everton, look pretty inviting, but would you be risking like a Maddison or a Barnes, given the rotation?
I would. I like Maddison a lot. I bought him in last week. I think he's a good option for this week. I think Harvey Barnes, good option as well. Yeah, outside of that, I don't think there's too many others I'd really be that interested in. But yeah, I definitely like Maddison. If you haven't got Maddison, I'd get him in.
I think the midfield is obviously, I think in FPL in general, and obviously on this free hit as well, is kind of one of the there's too many players to go in these slots, so I'm kind of going to say kind of all night, weighing up the best options in there. So if I just throw some names out there as well to you, Charlie. So for example, this is kind of a free hit player that wouldn't normally get in every team. So like a Ward-Prowse with set pieces. I'm debating between Ward-Prowse and the Saka. I was asking your little heads up about Saka earlier. Well, I think it was yesterday, to be fair, because I wasn't sure if Xhaka or Saka was playing a left back, and I was like, if Saka's playing left back, there's no way he's getting in my team. But in midfield, is there anyone like speaking out to you in that like mid-price range? In like, it could be a Leicester, it could be a Ward-Prowse, it could be a Saka. Who would you be going with, Charlie?
I would go with what Sam said. I think Maddison's the pick really from these players and that price. I'm planning on getting him in. I think I mentioned that last week as well, because Rafinha with his blank, going to take him out for Maddison seems a fairly easy move, really. I think there's not really a lot of great picks at that price, so I think you just go with the obvious one. Unless you're trying to maybe make a bigger move somewhere else, and maybe you'd go for Dewsbury Hall because he's so cheap and should be playing both those games, dependent on rotation, I guess. But I think Maddison's just the obvious pick. I don't think you need to go too far outside of that, really. One of Maddison or Saka, but Maddison would be my pick out of the two just for this week.
Yeah, and Dewsbury Hall is sat on my bench just purely for the price. You may as well get him in there to make up my triple Leicester. With Dewsbury Hall, Maddison and Schmeichel is how I currently have the Leicester players. So how am I? Well, I was going to direct this question at Sam in a second because he's going to like shout at me when I say I've got no Salah. Um, so my midfield currently that I've got in this free hit draft is Son, Madison, Bruno, Ward-Prowse starting, and then Dewsbury Hall on the bench. Is Salah going to punish me again against United, Sam? Am I going to be crying again when it comes to that fixture like last time?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting. I did a wildcard draft earlier, and it didn't actually include Salah, which is quite incredible to think. Really, he is unquestionably out of form at the minute, but he is also the top goal scorer in the league, and Manchester United have got more holes in their defence than the Colander. So I think it's reasonable to think that basically, if Liverpool get a penalty, Salah's taking it. And I've always been a fan of that penalty guarantee option. And when I particularly draft my first teams at the start of FPL, a lot of basis goes around penalty takers just to try and look at guaranteed options. If players are a bit sluggish, they might leave a foot or whatever. Man United are out of every competition as they've only got one game a week to concentrate on, so you'd like to think that they wouldn't be dangling too many legs out in tiredness. But at the same time, it is possible. I think there's actually better options if you were double game weeking this week. I actually think I like the look of Madison Barnes as a double Leicester midfield, and I like the look of Kulusevski and Son as a double Spurs midfield. I know Spurs have only got one fixture, but I would rather have that double combo than Salah and be able to have extra funds to distribute around if you were free hitting.
Yeah, I'm currently lining up with double Spurs with Son and Kane, so that's where I'm currently sitting. Because I think you're limited a bit more with the strikers you can go for, so I'm trying to like fill that one space with Kane, and then the Son
I definitely think there's more to be said than Kulusevski. I think offers really good value and enables you to put more funds at the back as well. I completely agree with what Charlie said. I would not be playing Telles or any Manchester United defender for that matter of fact. And if you don't have Kane and you have Kulusevski, there's obviously a chance that Kane scores a hat trick, and again Kane on penalties. So there's another thing to consider. But having said that, I would think it's highly likely that Manchester City keep a clean sheet. I think it's quite reasonable to think that Liverpool might keep a clean sheet. And at which point, I think you've got to have. I really do think you've still got to have Alexander Arnold in your team for this week. You've seen how exposed Manchester United are. You've seen what that guy can do on the ball. It wouldn't surprise me if you've got a couple of assists and a clean sheet. So yeah, I can see why you've got Kane in, and it's probably a bit of fun as a Man United fan to have Manchester United players in to root for as well to a certain extent. But I think if I was trying to pick a team that was going to offer me the best possible return option, I like Kulusevski and Son, which enabling you to get like a premium defensive asset like Trent or Cancelo, than Son and Kane, and then sticking with someone like Telles.
Yeah, and I think that's the main changes I'm looking at. So yeah, I've got 3 United players currently with Telles, Bruno, and Ronaldo. But like I said, I'm not thoroughly convinced. If there was another like premium midfielder who had a double game week, because I'm looking at like obviously you've got like Son, you've got like KDB, obviously the other Man City guys, and I'm just not convinced. Obviously, I think Son will play. I'm not convinced by any of the City players if they're who's going to play. So ideally, I'd get like another premium midfielder instead of Salah or Son, but currently got it on Son, but he's easily downgradable to a mid-price like a Barnes or something like you've said, and being a defender, I think that's the debate I've got at the minute. I'm not convinced by Bruno and Ronaldo both in the same team as well. It's taking a lot of funds. But I feel like on this free hit as well, funds isn't a great issue because there's not loads of premium assets that I want to go for, so a bit indecisive there. But I'm using your penalty taking thinking that's why Ward-Prowse is in there. That's mainly.
Well, I don't think Ward-Prowse is a bad option. Southampton are such a polarizing, they can either get slapped.
I feel like need to react against Arsenal after that Chelsea performance as well, and then the other fixtures Burnley. So
it's definitely not impossible. It's they were pretty poor, particularly defensively the other day. So going to need a bit of a turnaround to get something going there again.
Yeah, I wish Madison had penalties, but it's normally Tillemans, isn't it? When
Yeah,
Vardy's out, that's slightly disappointing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm considering. I think the potential move could be moving Son down to Saka and then getting a Trent or a Cancelo instead of Tellez. Could be the idea I'm currently thinking on. Is there anyone else that we've kind of missed in midfield when we're talking about it? I can't think of anyone unless you're daft enough to rely on Burnley again, go for Cornet, but we mentioned earlier Mr. Sitter. I can't think of anyone else who's jumping out for me in midfield there, unless you want like a Martinelli maybe. But Challer's the expert if he'll be starting now. You changed system a bit, didn't you? Well, you seem to have a lot more attackers on against Brighton, so I'm not sure if he's more guaranteed to start now.
Well, the system was roughly the same. It's just we've had to rejig the players around a little bit because of the injuries. So, yeah, I would say he probably is a little bit more likely to start just because Smith Rowe has to move more in the middle, which frees up Martinelli on the left. But yeah, I think I would still just favour Saka. Earlier in the season, I did favour Martinelli just because he does have more of a finishing quality about him compared to Saka, but Saka's just way more involved. So you just feel like something's more likely to happen when you've got Saka, and Saka can kind of create things when Arsenal aren't playing that well, whereas I feel Martinelli kind of relies a bit more on Arsenal playing well to actually get something in the end.
Yeah, trying to put me off him there. I think it's because he's such a great value, isn't he? He's still that. Well, I think it's between 5.5 and 6 million around that range, isn't he? So, but if he was going for an Arsenal midfielder, would you stick with Saka? Because
I think
more reliable, so. Yeah. Makes sense. I think so. If we move on to strikers, Sam, if you was on a free hit and I told you to pick 3 strikers, who would you be picking for this week? Don't know if I've stumped him there or he wasn't talking.
That's the reaction we've all had to the strikers.
It's like 3 strikers.
Mike was on mute. Mike was on mute. Disaster. Chris Wood would be number 1 for me. I think he's going to be a really good option this week. He scored his first goal last week, so I don't see why not. In terms of picking him, Kane is obviously a good option if you can afford him, but obviously at that premium price tag, some might not be able to. If we're talking 3 strikers to play in a front 3, then I think you probably. I think the only way that United are scoring is probably coming from Ronaldo. So I guess maybe him. Personally, I would take a punt on. I don't know. I just wouldn't pick Ronaldo in all honesty. Even if you like that Man United Norwich fixture, I don't think it's worth it with that Man United Liverpool fixture in the return. If you had the crystal ball to see who was playing up front for Leicester, that would probably be a decent one to pick. But if I had to give you 3 solid names for strikers, it would be Chris Wood, Harry Kane, and
You really doesn't want to say Ronaldo.
no, I can't say Ronaldo, man. I can't. He's a fraud.
Well, those 3 are my.
We'll go for, I think. Yeah, I mean, I might just go for a fodder striker to enable a 5-man midfield. I can't think, and that literally sums up the state of FPL striking options at the minute.
Yeah.
I mean, so many amazing assets to pick from in midfield that next year they've got to do something to balance it. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw Salah, Jota, maybe even Mane or Sterling or whatever as forwards, because Son, for example, they've got to do something to distribute the midfield weight to try and even it out a bit. But Chris Wood, get him in your team.
Don't worry, he's already in my team. Mine is currently Ronaldo, Kane, and Chris Wood. So I'm pretty set on that. The fact that Ronaldo's on penalties as well, so you know he can always jam a penalty against Norwich, even against Liverpool. So we'll see. Is there anyone that you would be looking at outside of that, Charlie?
No, as Sam covered, really, there's very limited options, and I absolutely would be playing just the two strikers and a fodder, because we talked about how there's a bit more of options in the midfield. So I think, yeah, you'd be mad to try and force three strikers in there, really.
How about I throw like Che Adams or St. Maximan in there?
No, you cannot. No, I'd
Just
keep it.
looking at
It wouldn't. As the second striker, sure, maybe you can kind of take a punt on that position. Yes, Wood probably is the best kind of second choice out of those options, but he's not that far clear of someone else in that kind of bracket that, you know, if you just wanted to have a bit of fun going for someone that's not Wood, then sure. But yeah, I wouldn't be veering much further away from them.
You're not thinking of fan favourite Vegas that he's going to finally bag all these points that we've been waiting for over these double game weeks?
So when I was drafting my team, I genuinely thought, oh, Veghorst is, you know, really always talked about whenever it comes to doubles, and then all you need to do is just go and have a look at his recent points scored, and that will put you right off. So I'd encourage anyone to do that before they put him in their team.
I think was it like game week 26 where he actually scored a goal, and I think he got 14 points, and then that's the only time he's actually got points the whole season. It's like...
Yeah, so his last point score, just going back just quickly, is 1-2, 1-2-2, 1-2-2. So
fantastic form.
That's as good an advocate of not putting him in team as you'll need. Stay away.
Yeah, there you go. That's nice. Easy decision there for you. I think that's kind of covered most of the double game week teams. I've literally got that we've got 7 double game weeks. You've got Man United, Newcastle, Southampton, Arsenal, Leicester, I think, as the main 5, and then obviously we mentioned Burnley, and then I've just got Brighton that's a void because they've got Spurs and Man City. So I'm not even going to talk about Brighton players because I don't think, in general, like Brighton have been pretty awful. Obviously they turned up against Arsenal, but wouldn't be investing in our Arsenal players. I should say Brighton players, especially because their double game week is so difficult as well. So I think that covers it. Was there anything else you wanted to mention on the free hit, guys, or does that cover it pretty decent?
Yeah, all good, I think.
Good stuff. I know Sam's just mentioned that it looked like Chelsea could have been getting 3-0, but I think it's been ruled out for handball by the looks of it. So if we keep on the current game week, so if we talk about your teams a bit, guys, seeing as though we've been talking about free hit a bit. So back to you, Sam. Going into the next game week, what are your plans? How many kind of double game week players have you got going forward into this week?
Okay, so as it stands at the moment, I have double game weeks this week for Pope, Livramento, Maddison, Saka, and Weghorst. However, yeah, Weghorst is still knocking around somehow. More just through lack of opportunity and fund distribution to be able to swap it for anyone meaningful. I'm contemplating bringing out, just because he's got the double game week, and he might just get 4 points. I think that might be 2 points more than Dennis gets against Brentford, but I'm not sure. And Watford have actually got decent fixtures after they got the double in 36 of Palace and Everton. And I don't think they're going to get out of it, but they might get out of it. I think of the 3 that are in there at the moment, I genuinely think the ones with the best chance now of getting out of it are probably Watford. In all honesty, I think Roy Hodgson's going to organise them up and go from there. But I don't know. It's going to be close. I think I'm going to go Dennis. I think it will probably be Dennis for Wood, just because Weghorst got the double game week. But I'm going to be handing the armband to someone other than Salah for the first time in a long time. I'm going to give the armband to Son for Brighton at home. I was thinking about Maddison, but I'm just not convinced that he's going to play 2 games. Even though I really like him as an option if he does play those 2 games.
Yeah,
I don't mind having Pope as the keeper. Yeah, overall not too bad. Still got that triple Liverpool. I'm pretty confident that they're going to win. I don't know if they'll keep a clean sheet, but I think they're probably more likely to keep a clean sheet than not against Man United at the moment.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was funnier about the start of that bit, that you've still got Dennis, or you're considering not getting rid of Dennis. Because I feel like he's one of those like traps in it. He was the original Begos, literally.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, you're right.
the down point of many people's seasons when he had a double game week and then got sent off in the first one. Um, but yeah, it seems like a good move to me. Yeah, Begos is that funny one, isn't it? I think haven't Burnley got a decent fixture the game week after?
Yeah,
Well?
Burnley have got West Ham, Southampton, Wolves at home, Watford, Villa. I mean, Burnley haven't got bad fixtures either. Don't get me wrong. I don't think either of them are going to get out of it now. I did think
Yeah.
Watford were going to get out of it. I just don't think either of them are. And you know, I'm okay with the other players I've got knocking around. Like I've got Coutinho and Cody on the bench, who don't have games. And the plan I think will be to hook Coutinho. I don't think he's quite ran the same. I'm happy with Cody, and then I've got this young Coombs fodder on there as well. So yeah, nothing crazy. I think Liverpool will beat Man United. I'm confident they'll get a return from Salah and probably Trent in an offensive option. I'm not expecting much from Livramento. If he can get anything more than 2 games played worth of points, then happy days. As much as Charlie's probably not going to like me hearing it, I think Chelsea will keep a clean sheet against Arsenal.
I agree.
But I do think that Saka has got a good chance of a return against Southampton. So there's options for points. I don't think it's going to be a crazy week, but yeah, there's definitely some options.
A few goals about to get us all some points. How are you looking, Charlie, going into the week?
Well, so I've got, what's this, just having it now, 1, 2, 3, 4 doublers. So that's Ramsdale, Amati, who's not first choice anymore, but I, given the Leicester rotation, expect him to probably get one of the 2 games. I've got Saka and Broha, which, having looked at my team earlier in the week, I thought, okay, maybe I actually do need quite a few more doublers, but all the discussion we've had and just my general thoughts on the doubles overall, yeah, I'm not actually that bothered about it particularly. I think the single game weeks I've got in are likely to score pretty well anyway. Loose plans, like I've mentioned, Rafinha probably to Maddison. I'll be keeping eyes on Leicester's game in the Europa, seeing just what happens in terms of lineup, and I expect Maddison to start, but if they could go up a few goals up and he gets pulled off, that'd be good. But I do now have a problem with Doherty because I brought him in this week and he obviously got his injury. So the plan, yeah, the plan had been to move Digne on because obviously he doesn't have a game this week. So I've now got funds in both Doherty and Digne, who are kind of mid-priced defenders that aren't playing this week. So I'm likely going to be taking -4. And then it'll just be a case of, looking at which defender around that kind of 6 million maybe cheaper, or if I want to push the boat out, because ultimately I want Cancelo eventually anyway. So if I want to kind of force that move, I might need to go as far as a -8, but I'm not sure that's worth it yet. So yeah, as you can tell, a bit undecided. Maddison's the likely move, and then maybe a potential move for Doherty to someone else, potentially Cancelo.
Yeah, it's a key thing into the Leicester one. You definitely want to see what the lineup's like, and from the first leg, it's going to be a tight one. So I wouldn't be banking on a lot of rest for the Leicester guys in there, which isn't going to help us from an FPL point of view. What are you thinking in terms of captaincy? I know Sam mentioned Son.
Yeah, I've got mine on Kane. Like I said, I don't have many double game weekers, but even even if I did, I don't think I'd captain. Even if I had a free choice, if I was on a free hit, I don't think there's anyone I'd be that confident in captaining anyway. And I just seem to remember Kane has a pretty good. I think Kane's got 5 and 5 against Brighton. He just seems to like playing against them. So yeah, probably one of Kane or Son at the moment. I've got the vice on Saka, but again, like Sam said, I don't expect us to score against Chelsea. He may well do something against Southampton, but again, we're not in a great goal scoring form. So even if he does get something, I expect it to be no more than probably one attacking return. So yeah, I think unfortunately it's going to have to be one of the Spurs boys.
Unfortunately, how the tides have turned here. Terrible, isn't it? Also, we've discussed my transfer plans since I run a free hit, so not much to touch on there. And I feel like I'm going to go a bit rogue on captaincy. It's definitely going to be a double game weeker, but I'm undecided who it's going to be. It's a bit of a tricky one. I might just go rogue, like a random Newcastle defender. I'm like, it's got to that part of the season when I'm like, just go a bit rogue and see what happens. May as well. But yeah, I'm not thoroughly locked on captaincy. As I've said with the free hit as well, I've got a plan for the free hit, as you've seen with the draft, but there's probably still going to be a few changes. I'll probably be messaging you both in Discord this week, like, what do I do with these certain players? It'll be like, which United players take out, so... and also depend on that Leicester fixture as well. So I think there might be a few chops and changes, but we will report back next week and see how successful it goes. Hopefully not too bad. But I think that kind of covers everything we kind of wanted to cover, because we've kind of talked about the fixtures as we've gone along with the teams. Is there anything else we wanted to touch on before we end it, guys?
No, good for me.
Nope.
Sounds good. So thank you both, and thank everyone for listening. And hopefully, if you're free hitting like myself, it goes well. But if you're not free hitting, I hope it goes well as well. But it's not as good as me, but we shall see. And we'll see you again next week. Have a great rest of your evening, and see you next time.